It really is an honor for me to introduce to some and to present to others one of my absolute favorite people. I currently serve as a board member for the Innerwork Center, and Rachel is the executive director. The Innerwork Center is this amazing gym right here in Richmond, and I hope that you guys check out the website and some of the programming that's coming up for this summer. But technically, I was blessed to meet Rachel probably over a decade ago. It's been over 10 years when she was the director of the nonprofit Learning Point. And she's a tough piece of leather, tightly put together. She's short in stature, but she has this big smile and big energy. And I was immediately affected and infected by her positivity and her love for the nonprofit community and the ways that they serve. And now I get to work with her at the Innerwork Center, so I feel like it's a full circle moment for me since I had fell in love with her initially so long ago. So academically, she's certified and lettered and learned in mindfulness and gender, sexuality, and women's studies. She has an MSW from VSU. She's a wife and a mom and a daughter and a sister. But what I really want to share with you about Rachel is that she is Richmond's friend. She is an absolute friend to this city. Her solution-focused passion is to help create a kinder and more compassionate Richmond that is steeped in the ideals of acceptance and belonging. And she doesn't just talk it, guys. This is how she lives her life. So to my Creative Mornings family, because I still claim all of you as my Creative Mornings family, meet my dear friend, Rachel Douglas.
Oh my gosh. Sheila, that was the best intro I've ever had in my life. Good morning, creatives. Thank you so much to Lindsay and Michelle and the whole Creative Mornings team for inviting me to speak today. I just love being with creatives. There is a freedom in it, and I am taking full advantage of that freedom today. Nothing but stories. I also just want to thank Sheila for making this connection, for that amazing intro, for her encouragement to share my story. It is said that stories are medicine, and I believe we owe it to each other, to our ancestors, and to our kids to share our stories and to heal. So I'm going to weave in what I know and what I don't know, actually, about resilience to my story and my ancestors and my kids. And recently I participated in a training where the facilitators began class with something called a social location. And it really resonated with me. And I had never heard of anyone doing this before. But it's a tool that's used to help the audience, you guys, begin to understand the relationship between what the speaker, me, is about to share and our own lives and experiences. So my full mix of privileges and marginalized identities undoubtedly impact not only the words, the language I chose for this talk, but also how you all experience me. And I love that because each group membership influences our identity and how we see the world. And that lens creates the stories we tell ourselves. So I am a 44-year-old queer, white, Jewish, deeply spiritual atheist, mom, wife, daughter, and sister, like Sheila said. I grew up in New York City and then St. Petersburg, Florida, in a middle-class, religious, highly academic family of scientists. As an extremely sensitive, intuitive, and empathic child, I have a deep appreciation for science. I do. But I know that there are so many things that science just can't explain yet, and that doesn't mean they're not real. I've lived in Richmond for 21 years, longer than I've lived anywhere. And Sheila's right, I love this place. I'm coming to you now from Indigenous Powhatan land, which feels especially important to acknowledge as I introduce my ancestors to you. So my mother's father, Ira Zoo Stess, well, his name is Ira Zoo, but his friends called him Zoo or Zuzu. And I actually called him Dad because my mom called him Dad. And I was the first. Then my brother called him Dad because I called him Dad. And then my sister. And anyway, he was Dad to me, but I also have my dad. I digress. So he fought for the US in World War II. And on Rosh Hashanah, Ira left his platoon to pray and was captured by Nazi soldiers, tortured, and held as a prisoner of war. He was shot twice in the arm, but they did bandage him, and he used that cast to hide his new fellow prisoners' valuables, as well as tobacco and zigzags. One day when he believed he heard possible sounds of US troops, he bribed his guards with cigarettes, and he jumped the wall to run towards the sounds. Ira Zoo's actions liberated his camp that day and earned him 2 Purple Hearts for bravery. Born on the other side of the world, my father's father, Chaim Shalom Kapelovich, moved his family from Lithuania to Palestine just ahead of the Holocaust. Most of the rest of his family perished in concentration camps. I know to many, the Holocaust is something that happened way in the distant past. But my father was about 2 when he crossed Russia and the Black Sea in a small boat with his mother and his brother. They were running from, but they were also running towards. Imagine the conviction, the courage, and the resilience that she had. She left 12 siblings and all of their families to get on a boat and put trust in strangers to get her 2 children out of a place of untold dangers. She left great wealth and stability. She left everyone she knew. She left her parents. But if she had stayed home, that would have been it for her, and my dad, and my uncle, and me, and my daughter, Bobby Ayla, who carries her name. So where do these stories live in me? Even when I'm not conscious of them, these stories live in my body. But every once in a while, I get glimpses of how they show up. So just the other day, I was at my friend Kim's house, and we were talking about my dad and his side of the family and what I know of their story, which actually isn't much. I heard all my life. I'll tell you more when you're older, but I'm older now, and he's 87, and there's still a lot I don't know. But as I told Kim these things, the sun began to shine for the first time that day, through the fig tree, and right onto the orange chair where I was sitting. And the first thing that happened was, for a moment, I felt a presence of timeless love and pride that my ancestors have for me. And then I went like this, and I stretched open my arms, and I laid my head back in the chair. But then almost immediately, I bent forward, and I tilted my head down, and I hid my face with my hands. And I think I started rattling on about shoes, maybe. And I wasn't conscious of any of it until Kim pointed it out to me. I wasn't conscious of the sun or me opening up or me closing down so quickly until after it was over. But it was beautiful. And then it was too much, and I got scared. And then I sat with it for a moment and I was so grateful. And then what do you know, my old friend judgment rushed in and my thoughts went to, well, who are you to think you have these abilities to speak to your ancestors or to connect with your ancestors? That's not how any of this works. Dr. Kapelovich, which by the way is my dad and also my mom, but also my brother and also my sister, would be ashamed of you for even being this woo-woo. There's what you know, and there's what you don't know. And I'm totally in what you don't even know you don't know. But all of it really is just an awakening to sensations and to synchronicities. And the joy and the resilience that come from connecting with something bigger than you, it's amazing. And how strange that I would be talking about my family's family, my grandmother, who I met and who people always said I looked like. And that love and pride was just shining down on me. And I was able to open up to that moment. On an ordinary day, I may not be receptive to those moments, but I was then. And I share all of this because my ancestors are a really important part of my resilience, even the ancestors I don't know about. And because of these experiences and knowing my family history, I grew up knowing that shit happens and that suffering is a part of life. Nothing happens just to you, just to me. Suffering is a part of our common humanity. It's a part of the human condition. And this is actually the root of my belief that your struggle is wrapped up in my struggle, and my liberation depends on your liberation. My activism is so deeply rooted in the stories that I carry, both consciously and unconsciously. So when I find myself asking, like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Right? We all do it. I quickly reframe to why not me? This is a resilience practice. I haven't always had this awareness, and it is a practice. And if you bring awareness to your suffering, the benefit is that you can remind yourself that you're not the only one who's suffered in this way, that it is part of our common humanity. And then you can be kind to yourself. Because most often we react with judgment, or I do, maybe you guys do too. We react with self-criticism when you're having a hard experience. And as it turns out, research is actually showing us now that treating ourselves with kindness and staying connected to ourselves and focusing on the learning of any situation is much more beneficial than harshness. It's not easy. Inner work is not easy. It's work. It's the deep introspection that gives you clarity about what matters most in life to you, not to anybody else, not what you are told to think matters, but what actually makes you awaken to your life. Excuse me. So the question is then, if it's so hard, why do this work? Well, we do it because we don't know what's coming down the pike, right? Who knew that a pandemic like this was possible in our lifetime? How could we imagine the dramatic changes we've all experienced over these past 14 months? Not just pandemic related. So what I would love for you to walk away with today are tools that are not just for this moment. They're for the moments we don't even know are coming yet. And the idea is that if you invest now in individual and collective resilience building, we may be able to emerge from this moment in time with the courage and the strength and the confidence that we need to embrace our larger lives and all of the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead. As a parent, I know that the resilience I'm building in myself is for future generations to tap into. I will be someone's ancestor one day. And I believe resilience is a long-term issue for the future of humanity. This practice is not just for ourselves. None of inner work is. It's ultimately for increasing individually, yes, but also relational and also collective and also cultural and social and systemic resilience. It's part of the relationship between social justice, economic justice, racial justice, it's human rights, it's societal resilience. And it's crucial for finding our relationship with the earth too. And we can all think about the various ways that we want to try to control all of that. But at the end of the day, all we can really control is, well, nothing. Although that doesn't stop our brains from trying, right? Our brains work hard. And my favorite neuroscientist, yes, I do have a favorite neuroscientist. His name is Rick Hansen, and he describes this from an evolutionary perspective. He says, the negative experiences that we have stick to us like Velcro, and all the good stuff, like the compliments, the good experiences, the time where you were super proud of yourself, they're like Teflon and they roll right off. Just our brain being super protective, always looking for threats. So for example, I'm a worrier, not a warrior, although maybe that too, I don't know. I worry. So I don't say that to be self-deprecating. I actually say it with no judgment at all. Like, my name is Rachel and I have brown eyes and I worry. But with awareness, right? Like not control, awareness, I can recognize this is happening in my brain and decide whether or not I want to listen to my brain or not. I don't resent my brain trying to protect me. I can thank it for its service and say, I don't need this right now. And what I need to do, being a constant worrier, is intentionally tune into the good. And that's a practice. It's a gratitude practice. And I find gratitude in my children's strong bodies and loud laughs, in my wife's love and loyalty, her grounding connection, my soul friends, my grandmother's decision to leave everything she knew with her iron and her wash bin and her samovar and her 2 boys, because this gives me strength. And I call these things to mind daily. In fact, when I'm feeling stuck or just like done, I usually start here. Instead of taking a deep breath, I usually think about, what do I have to be grateful for in my life? And I try to stick it to me like Velcro. In fact, in every email that I actually have a Velcro folder. And if you have sent me in the past any nice words, I feel like I was touched by and it, like a compliment, I keep them. And when I need some perspective, I read them. And these are the ways that I remind myself that I am enough. In fact, I have inherent enoughness. I don't need to feel any worse than anybody else in this world. And I also don't need to feel any better. In fact, I think comparison is the thief of joy. But if you're in a place where you can, just join me for a moment and type 3 things into the chat that you're grateful for. And I'll join you. Let me pull up my chat. See, we're already practicing together. All right, you guys keep going. This is solitary work, but it cannot be done alone. So even though we have this innate capacity for resilience, it doesn't mean we all know or are all good at finding it and using it to live a life that feels meaningful. For some of you, finding 3 things to be grateful for was easy. And for others, I guarantee you it was hard. But this is just one way of creating resilience. And so if it doesn't work for you, oh my gosh, find another. I find my resilience through gratitude, through a connection to my ancestors, and through constant curiosity, through my mindfulness practice, and by continually asking myself the question, how can I be with this right now, whatever this is? And sometimes those practices feel separate, but sometimes they merge. So to share what I mean, just join me for a few minutes in planting your feet on the floor. Even if your feet are on carpet or linoleum or whatever, know that the earth is holding you. Think of your feet as two prongs of a plug connected into Mother Earth, and pull that energy upwards into your body. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you, or just for a moment, look away from the Zoom screen and just softly gaze downwards. I'm just inviting you to turn gently inwards and pull your focus away from distractions. You can breathe just as you normally would. There's no need to do anything special here. Relax your shoulders. Relax your jaw. And bring your attention to the present moment with me. And now bring to mind someone who loves you and supports you unconditionally. It could be a mentor, a parent, a child, a friend. Visualize their face and visualize their smile. And if it's not a person, it can also be an animal. And just offer them a seat on your right. Just the idea of them, a seat on your right, and feel their love and admiration. And now bring your ancestors to mind. Know that you are here because they survived. Many of them thrived. And even if we can't go too far back, or we were adopted or created with donor material, you can bring to mind your people, your lineage. Sometimes for me, this is even the women who created the Innerwork Center. And seat your ancestors at your back. Feel their warmth beaming down like sunshine through the fig tree, and their pride and their love. And now to the left, I want you to bring your younger self in, a more innocent version of who you are. What would you say to yourself? Allow yourself to be touched by this younger version of yourself, feeling their good intentions. And just sit right here for just one more moment and savor the love and the strength of this trio surrounding us. And while you're savoring, just try to remember what this feels like in your body. So to do that, let's take a nice inhale, just a regular inhale, and then exhale just a little bit longer than your inhale. Just inhale again and exhale just a little bit longer. And we'll do it just one more time, inhaling and exhaling just a little bit longer. And join me back on the screen. And if you'd like, you can type the names of the people that you brought into the room with you, and you can honor them by typing their name. So what I just briefly guided you through is the practice. And resiliency is a practice. And it's like a muscle that you build, and anyone can do it. You can think of a bicep curl, right? You're not pulling the heaviest weights up front. you're working up and you're working up and you're working up. That's what I've seen in my mindfulness practice. And when I meditate, I get glimpses of the way that I want to be in the world. I'm pretty sure that's called wisdom. I have these moments of clarity where I can step out of the din and ask myself, is this mine to do? Is this where I put my gifts? Am I acting a certain way because of self-doubt and insecurity and anger, or out of confidence and clarity? And when I have that awareness, I don't get caught up in my thoughts or even my triggers. I have the freedom to choose where I put my energy giving work. And for me, that's where commitment comes from. And once you have commitment to someone or something, you're able to be courageous. True courage can only come from the heart, from my heart and from your heart. It can't be given to us from the outside, which is why you have to do your inner work, y'all. And when my practice is strong, it's not just resilience I feel, it is courage. So there's always going to be difficult situations that we need to withstand and recover from. Being resilient doesn't mean we don't have our feelings, right? If we didn't, actually, that would be worrisome. That would be disassociation. What we're talking about is resilience. So I may have realized these things, but I haven't arrived anywhere. I'm still a work in progress. And I'm right here alongside you, learning, doing my inner work every day. And I hope that you join me. You know where to find me. Thank you.
Rachel, thank you so very much for sharing that. We are going to open it for questions, and Lindsay, I think, is going to take over questions. Thank you for that beautiful meditation. I have to share just quickly. Today is the anniversary of when my mom passed, and I saw her so clear. And thank you.
Oh.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I did not prompt ahead of time, but if you do have a question, you can just drop it in the chat and we'll find you and we'll let you ask it. So
there's a lot of talk about doing mindfulness online, right, Rachel? You see all these things like do the work. I see that all the time. And I feel like there's some buzzwords that are like really around like, oh, I'm doing the work or I'm doing this. What does it mean to go past the buzzwords? Like, how do you, I think that the thing that you gave us right now was a really great way to start accessing it, but how do you continue to do and explore what mindful living can mean?
Yeah, so it's true. Mindfulness is a buzzword, and I am really happy for that. I actually think the reason it's gotten so popular is because of neuroscience. You know, people are studying now what we've sort of known for eons about the brain and about the human condition. And so for all of us, you know, fact-loving, science-loving, you know, cynics that, you know, which I actually kind of get, like, I want to know if this works before I put all this work into it. You know, neuroscience is coming out and saying like, yes, your brain actually physically changes through a mindfulness practice. And I think for a lot of people, that's the courage that they needed to start that practice, because it is not easy when you start. You know, the brain does what the brain is supposed to do, and that is generate thoughts. So what I hear so often, I mean, maybe every day, is I know everyone says like mindfulness, meditation, do all that stuff, but I can't. My brain just generates too many thoughts. And I wish that people knew that that was like that everybody was thinking that same thing, right? That it is, yeah, it is hard. And it's a practice. So, you know, that's why I love sort of like the bicep curl kind of comparison, because you start out with small muscles, right? Like I have no muscles, but you lift and you lift and you lift, and your muscles get bigger. And then before you know it, you're doing some heavy lifting. And that's what I have found in my mindfulness practice, because that muscle I do feel like is strong for me. My practice is about 6 years now, and it's almost daily, I would say. It's not for, there's a lot of misconceptions about what it actually looks like. My practice is maybe like 5 to 10 minutes a day. I'm not sitting cross-legged with my fingers in a mudra. I am usually sitting actually right here with my feet on the floor. And that's what I can fit in. And it makes a huge, huge difference for me. And then to address the latter part of your question, you said something about the work, and it just reminded me of what one of my mentors says. Instead of I am doing the work, I am the work. So my friend Ram Bhagat says that, and it just really resonates with me. I am the work. I'm a product of my experiences.
Beautiful.
That's amazing. I have, Nicole is at the airport, so I'll let her question go first. When you're feeling low and struggling to find 3 things that you're grateful for, do you have any other exercises you practice? Sometimes she feels guilty for not feeling grateful for things she knows she should be, and then that exercise sort of backfires, making her feel worse. So
yes. So, okay. Yes, I have a lot to say about that. Let me think about how to be linear about that. So if it feels too hard to find gratitude in the moment, start with your breath. Your breath is always there. And even if you can't find your breath, your body is breathing for you. So let your breath breathe you. You can, it's something that's there, it's free, you can always connect to it. And it physiologically brings you to a different space. So the breath that I was leading you guys through, it's a breath that's specifically designed to activate the vagus nerve. If you guys have not heard of the vagus nerve, please Google it. It is incredible. I'm obsessed with it. It's this nerve that goes from the back of your brain to all of your organs, including your gut. It is all connected, right? Like that is not, I say that all the time. It is not a woo-woo thing. It really, everything is connected and everything is connected. So start there. Start where you can. And then I just want to say one more thing about the judgment. The judgment is hard. It's why I say that mindfulness is like the easiest and the hardest thing to do. The definition of mindfulness is really just anchoring yourself to the present moment without judgment. And that without judgment is actually a really important piece of it. Don't judge your practice and don't judge yourself. Easier said than done. But again, all of this is a practice. So when you find yourself creating these judgmental thoughts, you can say, oh, there's my brain creating these judgmental thoughts, but I don't need them right now. So, thank you, but no thank you. And then go back to your practice, whether that's your breath, whether it's writing or swimming or writing down the things that you're grateful for. Just connect back to your anchor. And if the breath doesn't feel right for you, this is right. We always want to be trauma informed in these things, right? Feel your feet on the ground. If the breath is too much, feel your feet, feel your body against the seat, holding you up. And then just start from somewhere else. One of my favorite teachers, Susan Wilkes, she talks about her practice like a faucet that you can turn it on and off. So you are in charge of your own practice. And if it feels too much, turn that faucet down. And if it feels like, where you want to be, open it up, see what you find.
It's amazing. I know we have to wrap it up, but you mentioned, I'm just quick answer if you could. You mentioned I am someone's ancestor, and my eyes got all teary-eyed. Regardless if we have children or not, you are someone's, my friend's mom's friends, whatever. Intentionally, how does that frame, like lens, help you live differently or model differently? Like that, what have you intentionally done to model that?
Yeah, I want to leave the world a better place. I mean, that's so cheesy, but what I mean by that is I believe in our capacity to do so much better than we're doing right now. Sometimes that's called hope, right? That's also a resiliency practice. And so I want to teach my kids, I want to teach my kids a critical lens. I actually think it's one of the most important things that we can have in this world, that we don't just accept the world that is given to us, that we actively and have a responsibility to make this world a better place and to reduce the suffering. Suffering is a given right now, but does it always have to be? I don't know. Hopefully the future worlds will know.
Lovely. Thank you so much. We're going to drop some links to Rachel's practice. I think there's a longer version of what she did with us today that will be at the innerworkcenter.org.